Our renewal rate hovers right around the 70% mark.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The national average is about 48%. So we've been really trying to boost that up above that as much as possible. So we do have a really high renewal rate. We try to keep our tenants happy, which that's another realm that we're learning about every day.
Check out the website simplepassivecashflow.com for podcasts, videos, articles, and free e-courses. If you guys have any specific questions, feel free to reach out to the team via email and we'll get you pointed in the right direction, whether it be an educational course or information about syndication deals. If you haven't read my book, The Journey to Simple Passive Cashflow, click the link below to get a free copy. Thanks to John and the Wealth and Freedom Nexus podcast. Our team is here to help you take the first step, or if you're a seasoned investor, then we're here to expand your reach into alternative investing.
Are you tired of trying to keep ahead in the rat race, only to have so much of your hard-earned money going to the tax collector? Equity doesn't pay the bills. Retirement savings don't pay you now, and there are only 24 hours in a day to work. The only solution is passive income that pays you 24/7 now, not 40 years from now. From vetted investment opportunities to tax savings strategies, let John guide you through all the confusion and take control of your financial life in pursuit of financial freedom. So sit back, relax, and welcome to the Wealth and Freedom Nexus.
You know, for the most passive returns in real estate investing, I like to put my money with Freedom Family Investments, a team I personally trust because they pay me steady streams of cash flow, hassle-free, all while doing the things I love. Returns are better and more reliable than the stock market, up to 12%. I love that tax benefits offset capital gains or your W-2 income. For a little insider pro tip, knowing who to trust is key to success in investing. Freedom Family Investments has a perfect track record of paying their investors right on time. To learn more, text family to 66866. If you want to invest on autopilot with people I personally trust and with a team who cares about you reaching your financial goals, go ahead and text family to 66866. Hey there, welcome back to another great episode of the Wealth and Freedom Nexus podcast. As always, I'm your host, investor, educator, and realtor, John Rickgarn. For those that are just joining us for the first time, be sure to follow me on, you can actually just go to rickgarn.com. That will redirect you to all the links and show notes, resources that I've mentioned on this podcast for quite some time. You can also follow me on Instagram and, well, now it's X under the handle WFreedomNexus, as well as my YouTube channel at youtube.com/WFreedomNexus. So with that, it's been a while since I had a provider spotlight, if you will. We've talked on this show before, you know, showcasing Memphis and Birmingham, two markets that I've invested in the past. This one I have not. So again, you know, think of like Oklahoma City was another one that I touched base on. And this is actually pretty much right smack in the middle of the American heartland, Kansas City, Missouri. Now, this was a market that I checked out in 2021. Long story short, I checked out 3 turnkey providers. One kind of went away from turnkey providing. I really haven't heard much from them. Their website is no longer available. I don't know what all happened. The owner and the CEO is still around. I actually emailed him and I don't know if what all happened. Some rumor mills is that they were doing some new construction and they were branching out into Tulsa, Oklahoma. And, you know, kind of a weird jump, in my opinion, going from Kansas City, Missouri. And I understand there's a lot of turnkey providers, you know, Mid-South expanded into Little Rock, Arkansas. They've been doing very well there. But just jumping over, you know, to Tulsa, Oklahoma just seemed a little bizarre. And from what I heard, again, this is just rumor mill, what I've heard from others, this particular company, they expanded into Tulsa, expanded a little too rapidly, we're going into new construction. New construction, a lot of times they'll have short-term, you know, bridge loans and balloon payments and et cetera. My guess is if this happened, that they got a little over their heads, very easy to do. And with interest rates that rose as quickly as they did, starting in 2021, all the way here into 2023, and we'll see what 2024 brings. I can't imagine they're going to keep raising rates, but regardless, if you're financing operations, you have a lot more wiggle room when the financing is 2, 3, 4% versus 7, 8, 9 or higher percent. Like I said, that's just my guess. So there's one turnkey provider that I wasn't all that impressed with, partially because they also split up. They outsourced their property management duties to another company. I talked to them, looked at their literature, looked at the brochures, and just really wasn't, I wouldn't say that they were a bad company, but I just really wasn't all that impressed. And really how their numbers were, there wasn't any financial incentive for them to keep existing tenants. They actually charged the same lease up fee, whether it was a lease renewal as, hey, we have a tenant that's going to renew. They don't have to move. We don't need to worry about turning of the unit or painting or new carpet or anything like that. They're just re-signing for another year or maybe 2-year lease versus, okay, they're moving out for whatever reason. Now we got to turn the unit, clean it up, paint it, see if there's any damages, return the deposit, advertise, do showings, et cetera, and then get it rented again, which could take, hopefully I've had one where, the 30th, the one tenant moved out, and then the first of the month, another tenant moved in. But that doesn't happen all the time. Usually you can expect a 30 to 60 day window from, turning the unit, just depending on the time of year, the property, the condition, all those variables. So that was probably the big sticker point for me. It's like, there really isn't much financial incentive for you to keep a long-term tenant than just to keep or get a new one if you're charging the same for the lease up fee. So like I said, I'll just say it's water under the bridge that I didn't want to go with this particular provider. And there's another one that I checked out and really just wasn't all that impressed with her. And I say her, she was the one that was kind of showing me around. I had scheduled to visit plenty of time in advance. She almost made it seem like I was kind of a bother for coming in. It's like, what are you doing here? Why are you bothering me? Why are you disrupting my schedule? Whatnot. But I think the biggest thing, and first impressions leave a lasting impression. So this was 2.5 years ago, and I still remember very vividly. So she was driving around, showing a few properties, which I kind of like to see what the end results are. The quality of the maintenance, quality of the turnkey operations, etc. And we were driving along, nothing major, but 20, 30 miles an hour down a city street. And I'm in the passenger seat, she's in the driver, and with a guest in the car. And let's face it, I'm as guilty. Probably everyone listening to this is guilty at one time or another. But she proceeded to pretty much have her phone out and look straight down at her lap, not really paying attention driving while she was doing emails, texting, whatever. And, I'm talking like straight down, looking at your lap, like no eyes on the road whatsoever. Now, I'm just doing a quick glance down. I'm holding my phone off to the side and then flicking my eyes back and forth between the screen and the window. Nothing like that. And just, I don't know, it's just really kind of unnerving and just really kind of struck me the wrong way. It's just like, okay, this is how you do the little things. This is how you treat a guest. This is how you treat a potential customer. I don't know. Like I said, I won't mention names. I'm not going to mention names of either of these companies. Just really wasn't all that impressed. So it's like, okay, there's 2 turnkey providers. Gosh, do I just write off Kansas City entirely? However, the last company that I met with Todd, who is the owner of this Turnkey Property Group, actually a very small yet very, I would say, well-oiled machine. They are still in business. They don't do a lot of turnkey, properties. Obviously, inventory is scarce, and they want to make sure the numbers work for their investors. But they still do a few every single year. And their growth has been very steady. They only concentrate on Kansas City, Missouri. They know a lot of the suburbs. In fact, one suburb we'll be talking about is still kind of a favorite for cash flowing investors, and really just was impressed with their overall operations. Like I said, they are small. They're nowhere near as big as, Mid-South or Spartan Invest, just to name a few, but really was impressed with their operations. And while I haven't been investing in real estate recently, I have been looking at, I'd say Kansas City is definitely a possibility, whether that's next year or 10 years from now. Did like the market, did like the operations, did like the potential of that, and think there's some long-term stability with it. So with that, we're going to get into my interview with Todd Crippen. I hope I pronounced his name right. We'll double check when I hit the interview button. But Todd with Turnkey Property Group of Kansas City, Missouri, after a word from one of our longtime sponsors.
Check out the website simplepassivecashflow.com for podcasts, videos, articles, and free e-courses. If you guys have any specific questions, feel free to reach out to the team via email, and we'll get you pointed in the right direction, whether it be an educational course or information about syndication deals. If you haven't read my book, The Journey to Simple Passive Cashflow, click the link below to get a free copy. Thanks to John and the Wealth and Freedom Nexus podcast. Our team is here to help you take the first step, or if you're a seasoned investor, then we're here to expand your reach into alternative investing.
Hey, Todd, thanks for coming on the show. How are things down in KC?
Thanks for having me. They're good. Staying busy, pretty much same as usual.
All right. Well, always good. So now for my listeners that, I've had other quote unquote big names for, turnkey companies out there. But for my listeners that are not familiar with Turnkey Property Group and familiar with you, Todd, can you give us just a brief background on yourself and how did you end up in KC?
Yeah. So I graduated from K-State with an advertising and marketing degree.
Okay.
That's where I met my wife, who is from Kansas City. After that, we moved down to Oklahoma City, and I went to law school there, where I focused on getting my real estate law practice certificate. So about halfway through law school, I realized that's where my true passion lies.
Okay.
So kind of knew that I wanted to go right into real estate investing while in law school. So I got the JD completed. Very valuable information for real estate investing, and it applied directly to my career. I also learned in law school that you can only keep someone that's from Kansas City away from Kansas City for about 3 years max.
Okay.
A lot of passion with the people that grew up here, which I've learned as I've been here. But when I did move back to Kansas City, I was pretty interested in getting involved in investment real estate. Wasn't really sure which channel to explore, but I spoke with my father-in-law, who I knew was in the space.
Okay.
And he said, why don't you come to the office and check it out? And he basically was providing rental properties to out-of-state investors by using a third-party broker. And then he would refer the client to a third-party property management company.
Okay.
That was the first that I had been exposed to a version of the turnkey model.
Okay.
What I didn't understand, which I think when you're outside of the box and you're looking in, you kind of have a new perspective to look at it. And this was before turnkey was a household name.
Sure.
It wasn't as popular yet. This was back in 2016. So I didn't really have a thumbprint to look at, or at least I didn't even know where to look because I didn't know they existed yet.
Okay.
But I was like, why don't you hire a commission-based sales team to keep the brand associated with your clients and then create a property management company so you don't lose the repeat business aspect of it.
Sure.
So I got excited because this was something that I found interest in pretty immediately, providing out-of-state investors with cash flowing property with management referrals in place at the time. I told him all my ideas. He had to calm me down a little bit a couple times, but I ended up buying into his company, founded the property management brokerage, hired a sales team, hired interns by communicating with the students' heads of departments so they could get class credit by doing a complete rebrand, helping with an advertising campaign with the goal of just kind of internalizing all of the processes underneath one brand. That way you could help individuals grow their portfolio and kind of have a long-term relationship rather than saying, here you go, good company, goodbye. It grew a little too fast, and he had been around for 8 years already. And I think he appreciated and respected the energy and the vision that I was trying to implement, but he ended up telling me that he was okay just getting in his truck and checking on some projects. So
Gotcha.
yeah, but that's kind of how I did my toes into this world. And I started this company, Turnkey Property Group and TPG Management Services in 2018.
Okay. So 2018. So gotcha. So in the current current mode of business or current form, the Turnkey Property Group's been around for, at the time of this recording, about 5 going on 6 years now. So
Yes, correct.
okay, sounds good. Now, as I alluded to the intro a couple years ago, this is back in 2021, I went down to Kansas City. I always kind of like to do a site search, or, how do I like the area? I also like to talk to other property management companies, turnkey providers. I won't name names, but there was one that I talked to that just seems to have kind of disappeared. Their website is actually available for purchase on GoDaddy if you go to there. But 2 years later, your company, the Turnkey Property Group, you're still around and you're slowly but steadily growing, as you've mentioned before. What makes you and the company different from other turnkey providers?
I think I noticed when this was happening, because there was a sense of a gold rush feeling that
Yep.
that I was hearing around town. And I think that a lot of it had to do with people having a deal by deal mentality and trying to focus on volume.
Yeah.
It's the quantity over quality piece that I was worried for my competitors, because you get mad at the ones that don't have a good reputation because it looks bad on the industry overall. But you kind of root for the ones that are doing a good job and trying to do a good job. But if you don't have the infrastructure in place to focus on quality for a long-term relationship industry, then you're going to grow way faster than you can handle, which you kind of saw a lot of people selling off their management company arm to third parties because they didn't focus on that piece enough. And I think that the differentiating factor here is that we know that the property management piece is as important, if not more important, than actually providing a quality driven renovated rental property. And I think that's the biggest differentiating factor.
Okay. So with that being said, not to knock it per se. I mean, some companies decide, hey, we're just the property provider. This company over here is the property management. They're a subsidiary or a completely separate company, excuse me. But for Turnkey Property, all your property management is in-house within one company, basically.
Yes, it is. And to me, I could be nitpicky here, but that's turnkey. And I feel like if there's a chain of that, or a link in that chain broken, then you kind of aren't truly a turnkey company.
Yeah.
Plus, I do think that our focus has always been to tailor projections for individuals to maintain a long-term relationship, not only for them, but for us, because that increases our chance to have a repeat business situation. Nobody wants to own one single family rental property. They want to own 10, 20, 100. So if you take the time to build your infrastructure and to build those relationships and to put a lot of work into your processes and management, it takes a lot of work, and you're not going to grow those other companies, but that's what kind of gives you the longevity that I was striving for, to be risk averse in a risk tolerant industry.
Exactly. No, makes sense. So now here we are, 5 years later since you started the company back in 2018. At the time of this recording, we'll just kind of say, mid to late 2023, how many properties are you currently actively managing, and how many do you roughly pick up in a given year? For investors seeking DSCR financing, check out timothyhero.com. The guy has closed over 150 DSCR loans in the last 2 years and has been appearing on podcasts and written about by journalists. He's well connected with some of the best lenders in the game and can get you the financing for your rental properties.
It kind of varies. We've kind of hovered around the 4 to 6 per quarter range, so fairly small. We've got around 70 properties under management, about 75 doors. We got a fourplex and a duplex and a triplex. But yeah, so pretty modestly sized, and I'm glad. So we do have plans to grow. When we hit 100 doors, we're going to hire a full-time property manager.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I've got the plans in place and was building all of the systems to make sure that we could handle the increase. because
Right.
the management piece is a lot of work, which
Yeah.
is why you saw a lot of the situations happening.
Yeah. Well, and just even from a business and like a past life company I worked for, I mean, growth is always important. If you're not growing, you're not shrinking, one of my old bosses said. But there is something to be said, if you grow too fast, you grow too quickly, get spread too thin, things can really kind of start to unravel and fall apart where, let's concentrate on sustainable growth at that piece. So
Exactly. And when you're not trying to cater to a board or multiple owners of a private equity firm and there's only one
Yep.
owner,
Oh,
then
I could do a whole podcast on dealing with private equity from my past life, but I want to keep in a good spirit, so I won't go down that rabbit
Fair enough.
hole. So.
Fair enough.
All right. Now, so like you said, you're, hovering around 70, pick up, 4 to 6 properties per quarter in the, near to medium term future, looking at hiring a full-time property manager when you hit 100 doors. Moving on for some other, KPIs or key performance indicators across your portfolio, the 5 years you've started this company, what's been your average length for your renter stay?
So average term, we do a minimum 1-year lease term. We shoot
Okay.
for 2, but right now our renewal rate hovers right around the 70% mark. And
Oh, wow.
the national average is about 48%. So
Mhm.
we've been really trying to boost that up above that as much as possible. So we do have a really high renewal rate. We try to keep our tenants happy, which that's another realm that we're learning about every day. Stuff that we've implemented, resident benefits packages, has really increased our renewal rate.
Okay.
As well as making sure we're up to date with technology for them to submit maintenance requests.
Okay.
So we use Buildium and we just integrated that with Property Meld.
Okay.
So with the resident benefits package, all on-time rent payments are reported to all 3 credit bureaus, so they can get abused in their credit score. Also, the AC and furnace filters are delivered every quarter to their door, which actually helps our clients with some of that deferred maintenance. A lot of the times they just won't buy them and put them in there, but if they're shipped to the door, it increases that chance. So yeah. So Property Meld too, they're able to submit maintenance requests directly from their cell phone with no account. They just have to log in one time. And it provides windows of availability for our maintenance crew. They can confirm whether or not they need to be present or if a dog needs to be put away or anything like that. And our maintenance guy just has to confirm and then finish the repair. So after we implemented that, we saw a pretty big boost in that renewal rate. So it's right around 70%, and our occupancy ratio is right around the 89% mark.
Oh, nice. Okay. Sounds good. So then with that, as far as the, you had the renewals, let's say you try to go for a 2-year contract. When it comes for renewal, do you try to push for a 2-year renewal, or is it usually a 1-year renewal at that point?
So we do like to push for 2-year renewals, but it just kind of depends on the market. Some markets, I think it's always smarter to have a renewed lease than a turnover, but some markets appreciate a little faster in the rent range. So you don't want to kind of lock yourself down if you kind of know they're going to renew and you can raise the rents, but it's also a combination of keeping the client's income boosted, but keeping them in the order to save the money from a turnover. But yeah, we do shoot for those as well.
Okay. Makes sense. Now, obviously, numbers can change, and I know, name a few markets. I mean, I've seen properties in like hotspots like Boise, Idaho, and Austin, Texas, in the heyday, it was like, I saw as high as like $600,000 property and $3,000 a month rent. It's just like, these numbers just don't make sense. I'm not sure how in the world anyone could make this work as an investment. But here in late 2023, if someone were to come to Turnkey Property Group, they had cash, they had financing, they're pre-approved, whatever. What would you say right now you're seeing for like an average price for the properties you've sold in the last 12 months, and then what would that same property typically rent for?
So right now, with what our current inventory is at and what we've been experiencing, it's about an average of 230,000. We've got some for 180, some for 365, but the average is about 230. Okay. And with that, the rents on that average would be around 2147, which is hovering around that 0.92% rent to value ratio.
Sure. Yeah, that 1% rent to value is getting harder and harder. And sometimes if you find it, Well, there's a big difference between 1% ratio on paper and 1% in actuality if they're
Right.
not paying or heavy turnover. And again, another topic for a podcast. So,
Correct. Yeah. We
so,
try to be as conservative as possible with
mhm.
our projections. So yeah, in 0.92, I always say like anywhere 1% is the home run. Anywhere from
Yeah.
0.5 to 1 is good. And then when you
Yeah.
get into the nines, it's like a double.
Yep. Yeah, makes sense. Well, and I've had some in the 0.8, 0.85. I haven't done it myself, but I always figured my floor is 0.7, and that's more of like, maybe new build where insurance is cheaper and stuff like that. But when I started seeing the 0.6, and I actually saw one, I wish I saved the email, but it was a 0.49 rent to value. I was just like, you're out of your mind if you get this.
I would feel irresponsible for posting that for sale.
Yeah, like I said, I just deleted it. Like, you got to be out of your mind. There's no way I'm going to buy it. But then in hindsight, it's like, God, I really wish I would have saved that. It was, I won't name names, but he's a kind of a big wig in the area. He operates down in Florida, and this is before the big insurance premiums jacked up in the area. So not sure how that property is performing now. So
yeah, that's interesting for sure.
Yeah. So now going forward, like I said, we're closing out 2023 here, Todd, and going into 2024, any big plans, any expansions, any business changes that you're looking at, or maybe just anything in particular you're excited about for 2024?
Yeah, I'm excited about our team right now. We're growing steadily and slowly and quality driven, but we're also exploring the option to add another investment channel where our clients would be able to own a percentage of an entire portfolio instead of just single properties. So kind of a general partnership fund, but all of the properties would be acquired the same way that we're doing them. So more of a general partnership, limited partnership structure. Where people could buy into a portfolio rather than just one or two. Gotcha. So kind of just another diversification option, even though it's the same industry and type of investment. It's a way for them to dip their toes with a fund structure. So yeah, with my risk tolerance, so it's a little different than other funds out there.
Exactly. Yeah, there's some funds that it's like, hey, you might as well just flush the money down the toilet. I don't consider this an investment, but to each their own, I guess. So
right, yeah, this one would be. What's nice is that all we'd have to do would be a different structure and different LLC for acquisition, but we wouldn't be changing up any of our strategies. We would just be able to scale up and provide another option for our clients.
All right. Makes sense. So with that being said, Todd, and again, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to, share your story with my listeners and, highlight another, turnkey market and turnkey company. If any of my listeners are interested, maybe in reaching out to you, maybe buying a property, or depending on the time that they're listening to this and what's available, subscribing to that fund, so to speak, as another option for diversification, what's the best way to reach out to you?
The best way to reach out to me, like I mentioned a few times, we're kind of a boutique small shop. So emailing me at TODD at turnkey-pg.com, calling into the office 816-482-0826. And there's also a form that they can fill out to schedule a call with me.
Cool.
On our website, turnkey-pg.com.
All right, turnkey-pg.com. So again, anyone listening, driving, exercising, whatnot, I'll have these in a clickable format for you in the show notes, so you can make sure you get that on your schedule. So with that, Todd, thanks again for sharing your story with my listeners, and hope to have you back on another time.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to share, rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. For more updates, check out www.wealthandfreedomnexus.com. Remember, nothing on this show should be considered tax, legal, investment, or professional advice. This show is produced solely for educational and informational purposes. Please consult an appropriate and licensed tax, legal, real estate, or business professional for specific advice for your situation. For distribution or publication rights or media interviews, please contact the host.